after. Perfect. So the objectives for this session, as I say, what I want this to be is to help you guys be able to create a realistic, sustainable strategy around your health going into the new year that will fit around your lifestyle. So I focus it really around like working and having to commute, and also balancing around working from home. And if you've got busy calendars and you're traveling and you get that mental overload that we all deal with, having something that you can reflect back on and hopefully help you be successful moving into the new year. But also what I want this to be is to be able to have some tips that you guys can take away and immediately action. So what I'm hoping you can take from this are some outcomes, is a flexible workout plan that you can adapt yourselves. I'm going to tell you how to build that. A calorie framework, so that again you can calculate this for yourselves at this point in time, and it will be without focusing on any diet obsessions. Don't want any of that. And also thirdly, some tools around how to build habits and the systems that you can put in place so that it reduces any decision fatigue, which is essentially what makes us fail at implementing habits. But also on top of all of that, we're going into the peak of the festive period. So I want to arm you with this now so that you can go into next week and whatever festivities you have without any guilt and without overthinking anything, and then really enjoy yourself and then be armed from the 1st of January to have these things in place. So little agenda, just going to give a quick about me. I think you guys will know probably what I'm going to say, but for those that don't, just a little bit about me. Then I'll dive into the framework and then some questions at the end as well. So a little bit about me. I was born with a clicky hip, which means I have a problem with my left side of my hip. I've got one leg shorter than the other. Very much doesn't stop me doing anything. And I have that mindset that I stay active and it's a motivator for me so that it doesn't stop me doing anything in the future, because there is potential to have other issues if I don't keep it up. So it's been a real driver for me personally. But related to that, I have had bad relationships with food. Being a millennial, I grew up with carbs not being the devil, dropping my calories really low to get in a dress for this, for that, putting weight on when I went traveling, etc. So I have fluctuated over the last 30 years. And then I've always been a runner. If I was stressed, I'd put my trainers on and out the door I would go. I was always scared of going to the gym for fear of getting bulky. And the men went to the gym. It wasn't something that women did. Then went through uni, again, still that same sort of mindset. Then I came out of uni and I went into a consulting role post-uni, and I was juggling quite a lot with that around the stresses of dealing with clients, balancing a social life, fitness, relationships, friends, traveling. And I took a massive knock this year in my own confidence and was pretty burnt out. And I decided to take the leap to leave that corporate career and go into coaching. And this is essentially how I've got to where I am now. So that's just a little bit about me and how I've got here. But really, this is about you guys. So want to just take a second, and if you want to put this in the chat or just think about it yourselves, but just a bit of a reality check at the end of 2025, just really thinking about what derails you currently on work days. If we think about Monday to Friday, not meeting your health goals, and just want to take that as a bit of a reflection point and note with that, that's something that you can take through the next sort of half an hour when I'm talking about how to build the strategy for next year, thinking about what stopped you this year. So yeah, just have a little second to think about that yourselves. But also one thing I want to point out is, as women, and I'm definitely guilty of doing this, that I want things to be perfect. But the reality is that if we want our health plan to be perfect and only work on the perfect weeks, then it won't work. Life throws things at us every week, especially with work. And therefore it won't survive that corporate roller coaster if we want things to be perfect all the time. Um, okay, so going to dive in now into the game plan. I've split this into 3 pillars: exercise, nutrition, and mindset. And I'll talk to each one independently. But really, what I want to say is that your health and everything we're going to talk about here doesn't need to compete against the other things in your life. So, your career, your social life, etc. You should be able to bring all of these things together and then work in unison. And what I really want to help you with and arm you with from this is that if you have these systems in place, it will mean that you have to make fewer decisions and therefore you should set yourself up for success. So if we think about pillar 1, exercise. So focus this around a hybrid schedule. So thinking about if we work from the office, if we work at home, whatever our working pattern might be, that really there are benefits to strength training and how to incorporate that into our lives. So strength training actually really can help improve our energy levels. It can help with our stress resilience, and also specifically for us as women, long-term bone health can be really benefited by doing weight training. So if we train our muscles to get stronger, with that our bones get stronger as well. And one thing I really want to really emphasize is that you do not need to work out every single day. You need to have a strategy for the overall week. And you definitely do not need to spend absolutely hours in the gym. I certainly don't. There are people that might do that, but you don't need to do that to be healthy. Actually, 30 to 45 minutes is more than enough if they are structured in the right way. And if you focus on a plan for at least 12 weeks, you can see some real benefit. Less than 12 weeks, you can, but you really need to be hitting that in order to see that progression. Because our muscles need to be overloaded. And essentially what we do when we strength train is we are breaking the muscles, and it's in the recovery that they rebuild and therefore they grow. So that's the science behind it. So how can you build this plan? So I've broke this down into 4 steps, which hopefully can help you to build your own plan. So firstly, and I've split this into A and B because I think it's important to consider this as sort of two stages within the one. That firstly, we need to decide our frequency. So I've split this into beginner, advanced, and intermediate. So if you are a beginner in the gym, 2 to 3 times a week is more than enough. As you progress and you get used to it and you're doing more, you can increase the intensity of those. Also considering what other things you're doing as well. But also, once we've decided that frequency, say I want to decide that I'm going to do 3 to 4 sessions a week, I have to also think about what my minimum effective dose of that is, noting that not every week is going to be perfect and they're not all going to be the same. So in a given week, what is a non-negotiable amount I'm going to commit to? And that for me would probably be 2. So I will commit myself to minimum 2 a week. Ideally, I would be hitting that 3 or 4 if my schedule allows me to do that. So just to take the pressure off yourself that although you want to hit that frequency, what's the minimum you'll allow yourself to do? And that can work around socials, holidays, work, etc. Once you've decided that frequency, the next thing to do to build this plan is to decide how you're going to split those. So if you're doing 2 to 3 sessions a week, a good way of doing this is to have full body sessions. So you're working the whole body in all of those sessions. If you're doing more sessions, you could split that with upper and lower. And as you progress and can be more advanced, you might want to split by like push exercises, pull exercises, and then legs. So thinking about what that split looks like for you. Also then, once you've thought about the frequency and the split, is assigning those to work days. So to call out here that, say you go to the office 2 days a week, 3 days a week, or whatever that might look like, actually considering that you have shorter, lower friction exercises on those days. If you're commuting and you have to go to the gym either before work or after work or whatever that looks like, taking the pressure off yourself to be thinking I have to go and do my really hard sessions on those days. Whereas if you're at home and you can walk to your gym, you might do your longer heavier sessions on that day to help you, one, be able to get that time in and give yourself the best outcome and the best ability to go and get the most out of those sessions. So once we've decided all of that, the final thing with the plan then is how to structure each one of those sessions. So you want to be thinking about 4 to 6 exercises. You don't need to do any more than that per session. And within that, 3 to 4 sets, and then 6 to 12 reps within those sets. For example, you might do 5 exercises, of which you're doing 3 sets of each of those at 10 reps. If as you progress, you're likely to want to drop the reps and increase the weight, and that's how we get the progressive overload in those sessions. I'm going to pause there a second. Any questions on that?
So for me, I don't go to the gym, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm doing like the resistance bands and things. So how would I progress with those? Or should I just be doing my weights at home too?
So what you can do if you can't up the weight necessarily, what you can do is slow the movements down. So you're increasing the time that your muscles are under tension. So you can increase the intensity that way.
Right, okay.
Or you could do more. So you're overloading and shorten your like recovery time.
Yeah.
So if you're currently doing a minute, make it 45 seconds. Rest between each one so that you're overloading those muscles in a shorter period.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Any others? Nope. Cool. I'll keep moving. So just an example there on how you could do this. So if you're at home, as I say, you could decide to do a full body strength session. That's a longer 45-minute session. But if you're in the office, you might do your shorter session or just go for a walk. Can you walk from a station one further away or from the office rather than getting the bus, for example? So how can you incorporate more movement in your office days if it's been like if time is prohibitive there? And then on the weekends, think about, is there any lifestyle activities you can do? Can you go for a walk with a friend, play tennis, or have a session in your back pocket that might be a circuit session that if you know on a Saturday morning you've got half an hour, do that before you then start your day. So give yourself that flexibility that the weekend can then become an optional session potentially. And then just to give you some examples of how you could build a full body session. So you want to start with like compound moves. Compound moves are the big muscle groups. So for example, squats and leg press, or the hinge movements, so deadlifts and Romanian deadlifts. They are targeting the big glutes and the quads, which are some of the biggest muscles in the body. So if we do those first, we can then move on to more isolated movements. So for example, push-ups or rows, they're targeting singular muscles, and then finish with some core exercises or potentially a carry. So like walking, holding plates, for example. And just to bring this into a bit more context, on the right-hand side there is my current split. Obviously, this is quite a lot because I'm also running at the same time. I'm following a separate plan for that, but I'm doing 4 gym sessions, time dependent. I haven't done that for the last 2 weeks, and 2 runs, and I am splitting based on upper and lower. And I'm doing a push session and a pull session with my upper body, and then lower body, I'm doing a quad session and a glute focus session. And the glute session there, as you can see, is like a sumo deadlift, an RDL, step ups and kickbacks on the cable machines, banded glute bridge, and then a crunch to finish. So compound followed by those isolated movements and then finish with core. I did that session today and it took me 47 minutes. That is my longest session. The others don't take me that long, but just to give you an idea of that sessions can vary in time and they don't all have to be exactly the same. So just to round off this first session, just a little activity for you or something for you just to take away is to think about for yourself, how many workouts per week is realistic. and which days can you align to whatever your schedule looks like, whether that's home, office, if you work different locations, how can you align that and how can you structure it? And then thinking about what is one like fallback workout for those busy days. So for me, my fallback workout is not a workout, but it's just to go for a walk. If I can't get my workout in, last week, for example, I had 2 really busy days and it was either dark or I couldn't get to the gym because I had to, whatever. I just went out for a walk instead to get my movement in. So, what is that one fallback option that you have for those really busy days? Okay, just gonna have a little water.
So do you want us to tell you what our fallback walk would be?
You can if you want, or you can yeah, if you want to share it with the group.
I suppose mine would be walking because I do that every day anyway.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I'm doing 4 workouts with you,
yeah,
which I'm really doing good at actually. But I think 2 to 3 is probably a bit more realistic sometimes, especially this time of year.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's where having that, what's your non-negotiable level, and yours is walking plus then 2 sessions would be, and then it whatever you do above that is then your ideal, and just accepting that not every week is going to be that ideal, really.
Yeah.
Real. Okay, I'll move on to pillar 2 then, which is all around nutrition. So just a bit on the science side of this, just to start off with. And really, the main thing I want to focus on here is that calories are energy, and therefore we need calories in order to live, and also to fuel our bodies to be able to do the plan that we have just programmed as part of our exercise. So we have what is called the basal metabolic rate, the MBR, which essentially is the energy we need to live. So if you did absolutely nothing today, laying in bed like CwC is there, this is how much energy you would exert by eating and doing absolutely nothing. That is the basic level. Everything else we do, whatever we eat, and any exercise or anything we do is all on top of that MBR. So, what does under eating, as I have done in the past, I have also overeaten, but what it can do, especially thinking about in a work capacity, is it can lead to that brain fog. If we don't have the energy in order to do our job, we get that fog, and therefore we are underperforming potentially in what we're doing. We'll have poor workouts. If we're not fueling our bodies right, we won't be able to lift or run or do tennis. Whatever it is, we are impacting our ability to perform in those workouts. And interestingly, by under eating, we risk increasing our cravings. So if you've ever been on a diet and cut out chocolate, the first thing you'll start craving is chocolate, because that's what our body wants. So we should listen to what our body is telling us it needs. And then protein, it gets a lot of attention right now, but there are reasons for that. So protein does support muscle build. As I said before, when we're building muscles, we're essentially breaking them and reforming them. It is the proteins in our body that is making that happen. It helps stabilize our blood sugars. So the reason we get that afternoon crash is because we spike with our blood sugars after we've eaten lunch, and then they drop off again, and that's when we want that sugar. So having protein, especially in your lunches, helps stabilize that throughout the afternoon, and it helps us stay fuller. So I put here about the long afternoon meetings. We've all been in those where it could have been an email, but we're staying full, and it will keep us going through the afternoon. So essentially, the key thing here is that energy is related to our calories, and our weight changes due to calories in versus calories out. And we need to preserve proteins to help with us building muscle and staying full. So that's sort of the key message here. Now, what I wanted to do, and to help you guys, if you can get a calculator and want to do this now, this is essentially how you calculate now how many calories you should be consuming. And it is based on an equation. What I want to make clear, though, is that this number, whatever you get out of this equation, changes. And this is very much a starting point, and you should calculate this regularly if you want to track calories and you have goals related to certain whatever your goals are, weight loss, muscle gain, etc. So this essentially is calculated based on your height and your weight. So your body weight in kilos and your height in centimeters. And what we're doing is we are calculating that BMR, as I was just saying, which is the amount of energy we need just to survive, just to live. So there is an equation here, which is a bit of an odd one, but essentially it's 10 times your weight in kilos plus 6.25 times your height minus 5 times your age minus 161. So I can do that now for myself because I weighed myself this morning, so I know what the number is. And essentially what you can do is if you do this regularly, you can then see how you're tracking and when you need to be fluctuating your intake. So I will just do this quickly. 33 minus. So for me, this spits out a number of 1,315. That is the amount of calories I need to eat just to survive. So you'll get your own number. It may be higher or lower than you might think it would be. You don't need to tell me what that is or anything like that, but just so you've got that for yourself. So once you've got that BMR, what we then do is we determine our level of energy expenditure. So we've got our TDEE, total daily energy expenditure, and this is on a 5-point scale here. And this is why I was saying this can change because you might be lower or higher down this scale currently, and then things might change in your life and you might move up and down. So it's why it's important to keep this as a moving number. So what you want to do is decide where you are on that scale. I am going to put myself at moderately active. So I've got my BMR that I just calculated there, and I'm going to times it by 1.55, which gives me 2,038. So that currently is about my maintenance calories. So if I ate that amount every day, my weight should stay pretty much as it is. So what you want to do is think about where you are on that scale and get your number. And then final point there then is to adjust that dependent on your weight goals. So to be in a fat loss phase, you need to be in a deficit. So you need to be below whatever that number is. Shouldn't go lower than a 500 calorie deficit. Between 300 and 500 is a sensible number. To lose about a pound a week is sort of the maths there. So if I substituted 500 off of my number, that takes me to about 1,500. That for me would be very low. And I would probably struggle to hit that. So I would fluctuate that based on my own activity levels and how I feel and what my goals are. But hopefully that gives you an idea of where you are, what you need to consume just to live, what your expenditure levels are to give you a number, and then think about what your goal is and what the deficit is. So you're between 300 and 500 really on a deficit. Then the final point is just around protein. So calories is one thing, but your macros and actually the 3 carbs, fats, and proteins is another thing to think about. I've only called out proteins here because it is a little bit more complex to work out the others. But as a rough guide, hitting 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilo is about what you want to be hitting on your protein. So if you're 60 kilos, hitting about 120 grams of protein a day is about where you want to be hitting. So that's percentage then of your total calories. That was quite a lot. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to work through that?
Just on the protein sort of,
Yep.
I guess I find the challenge with macros is that I can track them reactively, like I can put it in the app and see how much I had, but I find it hard to plan meals that are going to give me the macros that I'm aiming for. So I don't know if you've got any tips on that.
That is hard if you're unless you're setting yourself an actual like meal plan and you know that this meal has X and I'm going to repeat it.
Yeah.
A few things that I do to up my protein in meals is adding Greek yogurt, because it's quite low in calories but quite high in protein. So for example, we just had loaded fries for our dinner and I chucked Greek yogurt in the pan when I was frying the chicken off, just as a way of upping the protein with that. So it is hard, I would say, but yeah, just little things on using egg whites as well as eggs is another way of, again, upping the protein without upping the calories.
Yeah.
So yeah, without having your set meal plan for every week, what I would say is if you could track 4 or 5 meals so you get a rough idea of what's in those and what the percentages are, you can then sort of rinse and repeat. Does that help? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Yeah. And can I ask one other question as well?
Go for it.
Just on the calorie deficit, can you build muscle and lose weight at the same time, or is it like a two-phase thing where you're doing one and then you're eating differently to do the other?
Yes, the latter. It is very hard to build muscle when you are in a deficit.
Okay.
Or a large deficit. You can be in like a small deficit and build muscle, but really the way I've done it before is I've actually gone in a surplus, so gone the other way and gone like 300 calories over maintenance.
Yeah.
To build muscle, and then gone fat loss and gone the other way to try and lose fat around the muscle that you've built. So it is 2-stage.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Let me see, this is what I do. I eat the same food all the time because I know it fits in with, the meal plans you've given me, but it's still healthy, but it just gets a bit boring that I have the same things a lot of the time. But I know that if I have like my chicken and my avocado and my eggs and my salmon, I'm then have my dinner in the evening and I'm normally spot on with, not my carbs though, because I don't eat enough carbs. I know that, but
You don't eat enough carbs, no.
I know. I just if I start eating carbs, I just will eat a whole loaf of bread and stuff because I like it. So I just try to minimize it. But I do have carbs at every meal.
Yeah.
But I'm not hungry. I don't feel
That's
very
good.
hungry.
That's where your protein is obviously high
Yeah.
enough. It's keeping you full. What you get from carbs though is this like slow release energy.
Yeah.
So helping like you keep going for the whole, so it's not necessarily fullness, but just that energy expenditure as well.
Well, I shall try to put a few more carbs in. I do have carbs at every meal though. Well, sometimes. Russ is laughing in the background now.
Yeah.
I do. So breakfast, I always make sure I have carbs. I've done my big walk.
Yep.
Lunch, I don't always, and then in the evening, I've just had pasta and I'll have potatoes or whatever. So it is there most of the time.
Good. Cool. Anybody else, or I can keep going? No. Okay, so this might touch, Alex, to what you were asking there, but just a few strategies here, thinking about if you're commuting or if you've got heavy meeting days and traveling, etc. So thinking about portable proteins. So overnight oats, I know they're not for everybody, but ways of having yogurt and oats in the morning can be really, really good, and they're easy to transport. I have put shakes on there. They're at the bottom of the protein list, in my opinion. I think there are better ways of you getting protein in without having to have the powders, but they are an option. And then just on lunches, so Tracy, as you were saying there, but really having protein and fiber heavy lunches can be really helpful in keeping you going for the rest of the day and help with those blood sugar crashes that I was saying about. And then also if you're traveling, and I wish I'd known this 5 or 6 years ago when I was doing a lot of traveling, is actually just prioritizing your proteins. If you are eating out, it's absolutely fine. Just pick your protein first, and then if you eat a burger and it's chicken burger and then you have chips, fine, but pick your protein source first and then let your fats and your carbs kind of fall where they are, and relax on being perfect with it. Like, you're traveling, you're away from home, you can't control everything, so just take the pressure off if you are traveling. So yeah, just a final bit here, and hopefully you've been able to take away with you an appropriate calorie range. Like I say, it's not the end goal, it's a starting point. Knowing a rough protein target, and just maybe one habit that you can think about with your nutrition moving forward based on what we have just discussed. So hopefully that's what you can take away from that section. And then just to go into the final pillar, which is all around mindset. So this is about habits. This is what I've focused this section on, and just about how we can implement habits to help us be high-performing women. I actually looked this up earlier. So it takes roughly 66 days for behaviors to become automatic. So it's why it takes us time for habits to become habits. And we fail at habits due to decision fatigue, not because we are lazy. It's our brains opting for the easiest option, so it can conserve energy for other things. So thinking about habits, we need to make them easy for us to implement. And I will talk about this in a little bit more detail on another slide, but focusing around identity-based habits do tend to stick, and they are easier for us to implement, but I will touch on that in a bit more detail. And a few key principles for us to think about when we're implementing new habits is reducing friction. So as I say, our brain will automatically go to the easiest option. So let's reduce the friction on that, and anchor habits around our existing routines. The way I always think about this is we all get up and do our teeth in the morning. So if you struggle to take a supplement or something you need to do in the morning, keep it by your toothbrush, and build on existing habits, and things that are already in our routines will make it easier for habits to stick. And we need habits to be designed for the days where we don't want to do them and we're not motivated to do them. They need to be designed for those tired days, because when we're motivated, things are much easier. When we're tired and we can't really be bothered, that's when things will slip. So a couple of examples on how we can do this. And one thing I've put on here is never miss twice, especially when things are busy. So if we slip on something once, fine. If we slip on it twice, the chances of us doing it, very slim. Again, because our brain automatically goes to the easy option. So one thing to think about with this is a habit. For example, if you want to start getting up and going to the gym in the morning, put your gym clothes by the bed or easy access. They're already on the floor, ready for you to go. So when you get up and it's cold and it's dark and your brain's going, no, it's already there for you to do it. And the example I have here is similar, other end of the day. When you get home from work, change your clothes immediately, and therefore you're more likely to do the workout, do the walk, whatever it might be. If you're training yourself to know that if you change your clothes and go into your gym clothes, that you're going to do a workout, the brain associates the two things together. And then the reward with that is we get that stress release and we get that mental reset. Again, with nutrition, one thing to do is think about on a Sunday evening, can we write a meal plan for the rest of the week or review what the week looks like, and therefore plan our meals? Or is there something we're going to repeat for lunches and know that there is X protein in these 3 meals? I'm going to have them this week. It means that we have fewer decisions to make during the week, and our brain is then focusing on actually executing said habit, not thinking about, oh, I need to go and do that. So just a couple of examples there on how we can build habits into our lives. And then main point of this is around identity-based habits, as I said. So what this is reinforcing a shift from achieving an outcome and shifting to who we want to be. So for example, with this, it might be the action might be, I want to lose 10 pounds, which is an outcome. Whereas the identity we might want is, I want to be a healthier person. So by shifting the focus from being outcome to becoming a healthier person, our brain is associating that with an identity rather than it being an outcome. And these are proven to be more effective in being like initiated and sustainable than them focusing on an outcome. And what we want to do is build, the way we can do this is in 3 steps. Is essentially think about who is that person? Who do we want to become? Is that you want to be more organized? You want to read more? You want to be more a learner, as I put there, or a healthier person? Whatever that is, you can think about that for yourselves. It might be a good time over this next few weeks when we've got a little bit of downtime and we're reflecting, who is it you want to be, not what you want to achieve. And what we can then do is think about small repeatable steps of how we become that desired state, and it therefore can make it more authentic and more sustainable when we start building towards that identity. So step 2 is then to take those small actions, and it really can be tiny. The smaller it is, it doesn't matter. If we're consistent with moving towards that new identity, we can build towards that. So reading 10 pages before you go to bed, making your breakfast for tomorrow, organizing your desk, whatever that might be. If we start repeating those same steps, they become behaviors which then align to our beliefs, and it then will lead to a transformation. And then the final stage there is letting that identity drive our behaviors. So when we have those small wins, and we should celebrate those wins, we get more confident, we're more motivated to do more, and those consistent actions just become bigger, and therefore then the habit becomes sustained. That all makes sense? Any questions?
Great.
Perfect. So then, as I have with the others, so the just sort of like thing to take away and to think about around mindset is, what is one exercise habit that you could put yourself for in the new year? Same with your nutrition. What's one habit you can look to bring in? And then finally, what is that identity statement? And you might not know that now. You might want to think about it and think about that over time. But just trying to think about what is that identity, and therefore what steps can you take to start working towards that.
Okay.
So that is it. That's my 3 pillars. So just a final thing to take away, therefore, is just to say that your health doesn't need time. It just needs to be aligned with everything else. And hopefully each tool that I've talked to in those 3 pillars can help build some resilience, focus, and help be able to be consistent under pressure that we will feel in life, in work, etc. And then the final thing I was just going to say is, basically, I think you guys will know this, but my program is centered around those 3 pillars, and I can essentially help create all of that for you using similar tools that I've just talked to, but given that accountability through the one-to-one support. And then just open up to any other questions if you guys have got anything.
Can you send me that burrito bowl recipe?
I can. Let me write
Thanks.
that down. I will forget.
I'm bored of baked beans on jacket potato for lunch, so
This is a good alternative.
yeah.
The chicken and avocado is a good one, though, for lunch.
Yeah.
Cherry tomatoes. And I've just made Kerry's whipped dip.
Oh, did you like it?
I haven't tried it yet. I put it cottage cheese, Greek yogurt. I've put
2 things I don't like.
oh, well, and then I've put some like herbs and stuff with it, and garlic, and
Yeah, nice.
Nice. I'm going to have that with pita bread tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. I really like the idea of the identity-based
Mm.
habits. I think that is, yeah, going to be fun to think about.
You're welcome.
It is. It's a better way of thinking about it, isn't it? Than I need to lose £10, or it is about. And I think for me, it is about just being healthy and exercise. I like it to be part of my daily routine. It's, I mean, I've walked to work every day now for about 4 years, so that's a real good habit I've got myself into. But it is just a habit now,
Yeah.
like you said, and the more you do it. So if I don't do it, I actually don't feel right about it if I don't do it. So
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it is good. The habit forming thing is very, very good to get into, I think.
My issue is that I hate going to the gym and I don't know what to do and I feel like everyone's staring at me and I'm doing it all wrong.
Let's talk
So
about that
this
separately,
is why I
Sophie.
then just don't go.
I used to be like that as well, and I'm sure Alex is used to.
Yeah, I always feel like that. Well, at the start, and now I just remind myself like no one actually is looking at me.
Nobody's looking at you.
And
Yeah.
if you go in with a plan, that's the main thing. I cannot go in without and just willy-nilly sort of wander around looking at
Yeah, because
machines. They have to be,
I just end up on the treadmill with them.
yeah. But yeah, if you go in with your plan of action, that definitely helps. And then you can always sneakily watch a YouTube video of how to use the machine. Or
Yeah.
obviously, if you've got Kerry as a coach, ask her what to do.
I still watch YouTube videos. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your friend. Cool. I'm just gonna